Note that the region has detected a defect in the provincial database that led to approximately 50 cases from November 17th to 24th not being reported to the region until today. So tomorrow's numbers may make it appear as though there was a large one-day jump, but really it will be reflective of those previous cases that were missed. As it stands right now, 35 additional cases have been reported in our region since yesterday, and unfortunately 4 additional deaths. When factoring those in with the number of recoveries we've seen since yesterday, our new total number of active cases in the region is 521. We have Dr. Dale Kalina, the Director of Infection Prevention and Control at Burlington's Joseph Brant Hospital, joining us, who explains how the second wave of the virus has been different than the first.
First wave in the sense that we are seeing a different set of patient presentations. We're seeing patients that are presenting sometimes more acutely and in sometimes not needing to present to the hospital at all. Continuing to increase, however, that's one of those later stage metrics that we're looking at as well.
While there are still many unknowns, Dr. Kalina offers some reasons why there have been less hospitalizations during the second wave, despite those higher numbers we've been seeing.
In a word, we don't know. I think some of it is the fact that a different patient population is primarily spreading the infection. We're seeing a lot of younger infections and a lot of infections that are in individuals who maybe don't have a lot of other comorbidities. That said, testing is a lot more widespread nowadays than it had been in the first wave. Is related to the amount of the inoculum that you get, so the amount of virus or bacteria, for instance, and perhaps that's playing a role. Again, some of these are unanswered questions right now.
Dr. Kalina also spoke more specifically about the number of COVID-19 patients that they've been treating recently at Joseph Brant Hospital.
It's been steady. So we do have a number of patients who are admitted both in the intensive care unit and in other areas of the hospital who are positive. But I think the major difference as well, though, is that during the first wave, there was a strong push to cancel a year.
I was also able to speak with Dr. Dale Kalina about COVID-19 vaccines. He spoke about the benefits, risks, and safety considerations, as well as how the rollout might look once a vaccine is approved by Health Canada. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for that. Up now, we have Burlington MP Karina Gould with a broader view of how the province and country are coping with these increasing numbers.
1,500 here in Ontario, in Quebec for over the past month now, but we're also seeing those numbers increase, particularly in Alberta and in British Columbia. And what's very concerning in Alberta is that they have pretty much the same number of cases on a daily basis as Ontario, but with 1/3 of the population. So provinces that may have seen better numbers in the spring and the summer, have really seen an explosion of cases recently. And I think this just reminds everyone that we need to keep doing what we're doing. But that doesn't mean that we can take our foot off the brake. We absolutely, need to really double down on our efforts and make sure that we continue to follow those public health guidelines. The most important of which is social distancing, because we know, we know a lot more about how the virus spreads these days. And so limiting our contacts, really reducing them to the bare minimum is super, in a sense, better than average numbers that we're seeing in Halton, but still, an increase that I think is concerning. And we certainly don't want to get to a situation where we have to go into an even deeper or stricter lockdown. And that's going to depend on all of us doing the right thing and taking the measures that we need to take.
With some areas such as Toronto and Peel in lockdown,
government has been and will continue to be there for individuals and businesses to help everyone bridge through to the other side of this pandemic. And this year, this week, Minister Freeland was very pleased to announce that as of Monday, November 23rd, businesses can apply for the new emergency rent subsidy hard because of the pandemic. And, they've taken a big impact on their books. And we came out with the initial commercial emergency rent subsidy program in the spring, but we have heard businesses, we listened to what their concerns are, and so now this subsidy will go directly to businesses and not to landlords. There will be a base, available of 65% of rent for businesses that have experienced a 70% drop in revenue, and there'll be a scale depending on what their losses are. So this is really good news for businesses here in Burlington who've been impacted, and particularly for those whose landlords didn't take up the. We also announced the continuation and the extension of the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. This has been really, really important for businesses who continue to provide services, who continue to, engage in their activities, but who've experienced a significant drop in revenue. So it's not only important for the businesses, but also for their employees. And we know that one of the most important things is keeping employees on payroll. And so this has been extended until June 2021, giving businesses and employees some certainty in terms of what they can expect over the next 6+ months as we get through this difficult winter period, but really just again ensuring that the federal government is there for businesses and for individuals to get through what is a very challenging time.
And if you've been from the region, came a bit of a shock to Mayor Rick Bennett.
Yeah, that came as a bit of a surprise. A couple of weeks ago when we were put in the red zone, we were in yellow, and we jumped 2 whole zones over, right from yellow to red. And I can't, which is from red to go to gray, and you're in lockdown. And we were very surprised because, especially here in Halton Hills, because our numbers aren't nearly 1,500 cases in 3 days, and we've had 3 active cases. Our biggest day was Friday, where we had 7 active cases, but we've been averaging about 1 or 2. It's creeping up. Where we were a month ago, we had like 4 active cases altogether, and now we're within 3.5 weeks, we're up to 45. But as I said, the last 3 days is just like 1 new active case, and compared to the hot spots, Toronto and Peel, let's face it, they're the 2 hot spots. So as far as that goes, our businesses are still working hard. They're still, you're still allowed to eat in restaurants. And one in Georgetown, they have decided just take out, nobody to come in the place. The one in Acton, it has wonderful Indian food, the clay oven, and they come from all over. They come from Brampton, Georgetown, Milton, Guelph. It has that good of a reputation. But I talked to Saeed 2 weeks ago, because on Wednesday, it was my takeout Wednesday, and I went there, and he says, no, we decided not to open up our restaurant, just take out, because we don't want anybody coming from the hot spots coming in, and chances are of spreading the virus. So some restaurants are taking it on their own, and but most of them are open and for business. But again, following the provincial legislation of no more than 10 people.
Ignition like today.
We really wish that every day would be an awareness day to end gender-based violence. But we are very happy that we have days like this, because it does bring more attention to and light to the issue that we still have this issue, this fight, that we need to be on top of the fact that gender-based violence still occurs, not just, in all those other countries that we think that it happens in, but in our own community, in Halton. So I think it's really important to have these days so that we can highlight that there are more conversations to have, and more people need to know. Because surprisingly, for some, it is very, it's a huge awareness piece for them, because they don't even know it still happens.
I asked Karen Bozo to share just how big of an issue this
partner violence a day. That number should, stagger us all. That's quite a lot of calls. And those are the calls that we know of, right? Those are the people that are calling. But what about all those women that are not calling? So, I know I've said this before in the last 8 months of this pandemic, but, this pandemic has really isolated women more than ever. And so what we are seeing is that the increase of intimate partner violence is, there is an increase in terms of the level of what's happening in those homes. So although, in the beginning of COVID, our crisis numbers didn't jump because women were isolated, literally, we are seeing, as the stages are opening, that, the crisis calls are coming through more. And, with our new protocols, I used to say that we ran at, capacity of 93 to 105%. Well, we can't run at that right now with physical distancing, and also changing our rooms a little bit to be more like suites, so that women who are staying with us can, feel more comfortable in their bedroom, because they're going to be spending a little bit more time there than usual. So we're operating between about 50 to 60%, but that's only because of physical distancing and how we had to change some protocols in the shelter. The need is still there. We're still getting those calls from women that need space. And so we're working with them to make sure that they stay safe, whether it is in their home or with paying attention to your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends, still asking everyone how they're doing, right? This is the time when maybe somebody will disclose if they're having some issues that you don't know within their home. So always keep those radars up, with our friends and our colleagues, and asking people how they're doing. That's what we need. We need community support right now in that regard. But also with your women's shelter here in Halton, Christmas is coming, I know. Although we can't take stuff in right now because of COVID, we're looking for gift cards. Monetary donations are always welcome. There's ways as well to help us in that regard to support the clients that we are seeing and helping throughout the community. But really, our community needs to just be aware of those.
Welcome back to Halton News. Before the break, we heard from Carm Boltzo of Halton Women's Place about today being the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And now we have Leanna Palmerio, the president of the Zonta Club of Oakville, who shares how you can participate in the 16 Days of Activism.
Yes, thanks. Thank you for having me. So the Zonta Club of Oakville is actually quite involved in the 16 Days of Advocacy, and it starts today, November 25th, and goes till December 10th. It is actually an international initiative, so over 1,000 clubs around the world are going to be participating in events that stop violence against women and bring awareness to violence against women in our communities and all over the world. Our international advocacy has 3 components to it for all the clubs to try and adhere to, not just through these 16 days, but throughout the year, to promote the human rights of women, to achieve gender equality, posting social media quite regularly on our Instagram and our Zonta Club of Oakville page. Today we're launching a campaign for our club, which is asking people to donate $16, basically $1 a day, to our club to help us support our local partnerships in providing aid to victims of gender-based violence. And so this will go towards emergency housing, financial aid and educational support, mental health support, because Zonta International is about helping and empowering women. And we connect with the United Nations and UN Women to bring more awareness, especially to empowering women. So anybody who can help support in any way, join your local Zonta Club, donate to our campaign, particularly for the 16 Days of Advocacy. Watch for our march. We're doing a virtual march on December 6th through social media as well, which is going to be fantastic. And yeah, that's pretty much what we're up to in these busy days where we're stuck at home, but still trying to advocate for women.
To say yes to $1 a day for 16 days, Zonta is accepting checks and e-transfers. You can send checks to the address on your screen or send an e-transfer to treasurer@zontaoakville.org. And here's a look downtown Oakville on Lake Shore with the completed streetscape down there as we head into our 5-day weather outlook. We are anticipating a 40% chance of showers tomorrow, otherwise cloudy skies reaching a high of 11 degrees, the warmest day in the rest of our 5-day forecast, but we do have sunshine returning for Friday, Saturday, and full sun expected on Sunday. Cooler temperatures though, 6 degrees as our afternoon high on Friday, 5 on Saturday, up to 7 on Sunday without a cloud in the sky. Some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. Welcome back to Halton News. Have you been thinking about writing your letter to Santa yet? Well, in this next story, Melissa Candelaria will tell you how the Halton Hills Public Library can help.
The Halton Hills Public Library is ready to take your letters to Santa. With the COVID-19 pandemic forcing the library to modify their usual holiday programming, Children's Services librarian Lisa Hunsiger says their Letters to Santa initiative is the least they can do to maintain a connection to the jolly old man.
Well, Santa is one of our favorite people, and in fact, usually we have Mrs. Claus come to the library around this time of the year to do story time for us. Obviously, we're not doing that this year in the library, so it was really important that we figured out something else that we could do to work with one of our favorite people. We have this fabulous mailbox that was donated by a local business, and so we've put together these great kits that include a letter template, a pencil, an envelope, and a sweet treat that kids can nibble on while they're writing their letters.
Letters to Santa does more than just get your letters to the North Pole. Hunsiger says it's a great learning activity as well.
Early literacy is really important to us. So early literacy is what kids know about reading before they actually start to read. And printing, letter recognition, reading the letters that you're writing to Santa, doing all of those, figuring out what letters go with what you're spelling, that's all really important. So this kit, even though it's going to be fun to do, because once the kids write their letter, they can come back to the library and pop it into the mailbox, but they're also learning too.
Kids can drop by at the library during business hours to pick up their kits. Hunsiger says they are hoping lots of children will participate.
It's been a tough year for families. It's been a hard year. And it's still hard, and it's going to keep getting hard. So we just really wanted to do something that would bring some joy to our HHPL families.
And I've got some extra good news. The Halton Hills Public Library just doesn't have this drop-off here in Georgetown. For you kids over in Acton, you can head on over to your library there and drop a letter off to Santa as well. And I do want to let you know that you have until December 10th to drop off your letters to Santa if you want to get a reply. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Melissa Candelaria.
Thank you for watching us here tonight on Halton News. We'll be back tomorrow live at 5. Until then, I wish you a safe and happy evening. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Keating.